please allow me to stand on all protocols. I have been approached or requested to present a topic on the challenges of education, but it is a very wide area, and for the purpose of this gathering or meeting for that matter, I would like to narrow it down to with specific reference to the education system, particularly the plight and welfare of teachers. Teaching is a profession. Teaching is a form of public service, and as a result, it requires a high sense of personal and corporate responsibility to educate our children and take care of their welfare. More often than not, when the Gabeke, or if you like, the worst results are published, you have a lot of analysis done on the results, but predominantly what I was trying to say is the fact that when results are out, we center our analysis on the number of credit passes and the number of failures. Hardly do we even bother in most instances ourselves with the inputs that go into education. The fact that I'm talking about challenges, first and foremost, education financing is a fundamental concern in this country. The education budget for the past couple of years, rather than progressively increasing, has been fluctuating, if you like. There has not been any moment, I stand to be corrected, where we receive even the barest minimum. What I mean here is there are certain benchmarks, like 20% or 6% of our GDP, and at sub-regional level, at the level of ECOWAS, the minimum that a country needs to run its education system is 24%. Perhaps the peers will help me to share with us the statistics regarding the 2022 education budget. So the biggest challenge is funding education in this country. More often than not, the ministry would be given a ceiling, meaning a figure will be stipulated. Whether it is good enough or not, the ministry is obliged to do its budget within that amount given to them. This is contrary to conventional or the global standards, where, for instance, the unit cost is used to determine, for example, how much the sector would have needed to train a child, probably from ECD to senior secondary level. And worst of all, even the amount of money that is approved in this country for the purpose of discussion. For instance, if $10 million has been approved, hardly would the sector receive that $10 million. As a for example, they might receive, let's say, $8 million. That $8 million that is even received, in most instances, is received in bits. And worst of all, the bits are received lately. Happy that this is a writers' association. Of course, the literature students are here. Instead of the dog wagging the tail, you have the tail wagging the dog. What do you expect? What do we say? If you fail to prepare, how do we put it? If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Also, on matters of professional issues, the very one of us who would complain about the poor results, I do not intend to blame parents, Hardly would you see a parent whose child scores 7 credits, 9 credits, encouraging him or her to take up teaching as a career. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So the inputs are very, very important. Another challenge that has to do with professional issues has to do with instances, unfortunately, where teachers in some cases and students come into conflict with the law, where we have some professional misconduct that gets to the point of us eroding or losing the public esteem that we have enjoyed for quite a while. I want to talk about also public interference into school management. More often than not, teachers and head teachers are posted to communities only to be rejected by the same communities. We have seen a couple of cases this year, for instance, where they would petition the office of the permanent secretary, say, we don't want this particular head teacher or principal, we don't want teachers X, Y, and Z, otherwise we will withdraw our kids. In fact, I'm just from Basse a couple of days ago, where a head teacher who wanted to make a request regarding the school feeding program, the chairperson of the food management committee refused to share the balance of the money, and in fact, it warranted the head teacher and the cluster manager to organize an emergency meeting to have access to the school funds for this head teacher to manage her school. So there's too much of public interference. It's a very big challenge. It's something that is looming in the distance, and we need to cover it and we need to address it once and for all. Also, we look at the working and living condition of teachers. We, coming from the side of the aisle, believe that the working and living condition of teachers determine the learning outcome of students. What do we say? That the will to win is worthless if you don't have the will to prepare. If the teacher is not mentally, psychological, professional, or otherwise prepared, certainly, yes, there will be contact hours between the teacher and the students, but the instructional hours will be compromised. We have seen cases in this country where teachers are living in stores, teachers are living in classrooms. The PS can bear me witness. We've gone around the country with him. I mean classrooms, on tables. They'll make sure that they get up very early, dress up before their kids come, and when school closes, that is their house. They are living in stores without windows. The development budget for education in this country has started to be corrected since, I guess, 1995 or thereabout, is next to zero. We are not seriously investing in education in this country. As a country, we are not. And we like comparing what happens in the Gambia to our neighboring countries. But little do we compare regarding the inputs that actually gets into that the sector receives. Salaries and fringe benefits, emoluments. Within the public sector, there is this debate that teachers literally are receiving more than, thank you, it's good that you reminded me. Teachers literally are receiving more than their contemporaries in other parts of the economy. True, but when it comes to fringe benefits, certainly as a union, we have distributed over 2,000 plus to our members. They can bill it. What a sad story. Teachers are retiring and renting into, while still renting. Thanks to, I wouldn't want to blow my trumpet, our credit union. Quite a good number of teachers are driving cars, living in their homes, educating their kids by virtue of our loan scheme and some of the support that we give to them. We are not saying nothing good is happening in education, but taking cue from the president's statement that there is mass failure, for the purpose of emphasis, I want to remind the gathering that the counting begins with the input before we talk about the outputs. Thank you.
I am pleased to present this topic in cognizance of the importance of such an historic day and the vitality and weight of this topic under discussion, that is world education in crisis, and what should all do to liberate world education system from such a bondage and burden, with the focus on foundation learning, basic literacy, numeracy, and foundational skills, which are critical to face the unprecedented losses in global learning caused by prolonged school closures during the COVID-19 pandemic. Already, before the pandemic, over half of the children in low and middle income countries were living in learning poverty, which is the share of children unable to read and understand a basic text by the age of 10. Unfortunately, that share has increased to an estimated 70% in 2022. Combined with the plunge in growth and investment, this learning crisis means the world is facing a full-blown crisis in development. Recent data from the pandemic shows that while schools were closed, students on average made none of the usual learning gains, despite attempts to read them with remote learning. In other words, 8 months out of in-person schooling led to a full month of loose learning. With school closures between 1 to 2 years in many countries, this adds up to massive learning losses globally and affects countries regardless of income level. Additionally, the complete shutdown of preschools means that hundreds of millions of children face inadequate nutrition and a lack of early stimulation. And in some countries, dropouts have increased, especially among adolescents from low-income families. Girls living in conflict-affected countries are 2.5 times more likely to be out of school. Without decisive action, today's students could lose 10% of their future average annual earnings, with inequality likely to worsen.